Congratulations to the Dane Bo Hamburger, who got his first stage win in a Tour de France yesterday. Congratulations too to our competition winners, Mr. Frank Waring from Fleetwood, and runners-up Richard Rees and Sarah Absalom, who were three of a handful who chose Bo. The prize to Mr. Frank Waring is Johan Museo's signed yellow jersey, the signing-on sheet with all of the riders' signatures from Portsmouth, and a copy of Chris Boardman's book, The Fastest Man on Two Wheels. The two runners-up will receive also a copy of Chris's book. Back to the race, Johan Museo holds his yellow jersey. He leads from Bortolami and Sean Yates. Of the pre-race favourites, Miguel Induráin is 7th, 30 seconds back. Tony Rominger is 10th at 58 seconds. And our own Chris Boardman, 17th, just 69 seconds away from yellow. What an inspired guest, Mr. Waring. I look forward to your selection when we resume our competition next Sunday. Well, we're now in Perigueux for the next crucial stage of the Tour de France, the time trial. The riders leaving the start house behind me at 2-minute intervals. It'll be a while yet before the leaders make their start. Now, Miguel Induráin is best poised to take the race lead in the Tour de France of all of the favourites. But Tony Rominger, who beat him in the final time trial last year in the Tour, is likely to challenge him. Although rumour all week has abounded, he has an injured knee, and indeed his recuperative powers are not what they should be at this stage of the event. And there's our own Chris Boardman. He beat Induráin by 15 seconds to the first leader's yellow jersey in the prologue time trial in Lille. If he can extend that over the greater distance today, he'll not only win this time trial, he'll also be the new leader of the race. Chris Boardman loves this event, and you can never discount him. And a couple of days ago, we caught up with Chris, and he told us what his chances were.
The course suits me again. It just purely depends on what sort of shape I get there in. Today I was tired. It's by far the longest stage I've ever ridden, and I was a bit tired at the end. So it's take it day by day. I know I've said it many times. It's unknown. Just see how I feel when I get there. If I'm feeling good, then it's definitely on.
And this is Chris before the start this morning, warming up on the rollers. The route he will face is 63 kilometres, and after a very hard start in the undulations of the Dodon, it rolls out into hot farmland for a flat finish in Bergerac.
This has been the hottest day so far, in the mid-30 degrees Celsius, and hardly any wind at all. Great for the spectators, but once again, it's very exhausting for the riders.
And there on the start line now is Chris Boardman. All the warming up is over, and another momentous occasion in his young career. Now it's the long time trial of the Tour de France for him, the first time he's attempted it. And you know, if he finds his legs are feeling good, he could give Miguel Induráin a real run for his money.
3, 2, 1, and Boardman's on his way. It's going to be very interesting today to see how he performs over such a course, because he's never ridden a time trial, having done such a hard 9 days beforehand as the Tour de France has been this year.
Well, Boardman is on the talk of everybody's lips now after his ride in Lille. It will be no surprise to the journalists on this tour nor the riders if he does put up the best time today. The first check will come at 6.5 kilometres. Very tricky beginning this route. It twists and turns away from the town. It dives sharply starting here, and then the riders really have to add a lot of skill to pure speed in the opening kilometres.
Interesting point to note is you can just see the red thing under Boardman's saddle there. In fact, because of the aerodynamic position on his bicycle and the aerodynamic frame, he can't carry a water bottle like most riders can on their bikes, and he's had to fit it underneath the saddle.
And now you can see his streamlined bicycle, very, very similar to the design which carried him to an Olympic gold medal on the Velodrome in Barcelona. And I have to say, in conditions very, very similar to this. And now in the start house, Tony Rominger, a big moment for him, because does he really have a knee problem? Is he really not on the form that we all expected from him this year? And Rominger now is going to have to prove to everybody he will challenge Miguel Induráin when we go down to the Pyrenees and onward to the Alps. Out of the start house, and the pressure on him very much indeed. And just look at this, Chris Boardman has now reached the first check of 6.5 kilometres. He's gone through in the best time, 5 seconds better than Ugrimov, 10 seconds better than Alex Zula, and Rolf Sorensen and Alano, the only other two near him. That's a tremendous start for Boardman. And the countdown now for Armand de las Cuevas, who leaves the start house, and this could be a surprise result here. De las Cuevas is a great time trial rider. He won the most coveted time trial in the world last year, the Grand Prix des Nations. are large crowds lining the route all of the way here today in extremely hot conditions. It's a very pretty route in the Dordogne. Having a brief look here now further along the route, and this is Luc Leblanc while we go back to the start house. And now we should see Miguel Induráin in there. King of the time trials, who was actually very upset at being beaten by Chris Boardman when he lost 15 seconds in the prologue time trial. He had ambitions to lead this tour from day one to the finish. Nobody's done that since the war years. And Induráin goes now, and what to him will hopefully re-establish him as the best rider in the business. We'll see. Miguel Induráin quickly into his rhythm, his hands on the handlebars, changing the gear shifts and moving smoothly up the gears. It's the first 20 kilometres of this course, which is very technical indeed.
Well, Induráin is straight away, he's got into his position, he's flying along at the moment, and it's going to be exciting waiting for the first time check to come through after 6 kilometres to see where he is in relation to Chris Boardman, because he started the day with a 39-second advantage over Boardman in the overall standings.
So Miguel Induráin is on the road and on his way. We'll take a short break, and when we'll come back, we'll see whether Boardman can match his pace.
You know, what with the excitement of crashes, Boardman and Yates in yellow and 2 stages in England, we've hardly mentioned the favourite to win this Tour de France so far, Miguel Induráin. Then again, of course, Mig's not big on excitement, just on winning, which he manages to do with the minimum possible fuss. Since his days as Pedro Delgado's bodyguard, Miguel Induráin has quietly and efficiently gone about establishing a monopoly on cycling's biggest race. His first stage win in the Tour came back in 1989, and he followed it up the next year with victory in the mountains at Luzard-Iden. In 91, he took his first yellow jersey on stage 13 and defended it all the way to Paris for his first overall victory. For Mig's rivals, the scenes on the Champs-Élysées in 1992 and last year were depressingly similar. Indurain's wins have brought him superstar status back in Spain, where he has the freedom of his hometown. What's brought him his wins, though, has been his mastery of the time trial. In fact, since he first took yellow 3 years ago, Induráin has won nothing but time trials in the Tour, knowing he can switch on the cruise control and stay comfortably with any rivals. Last year, though, cycling's coolest customer looked anything but, as Tony Rominger applied pressure in the mountains. And on stage 19, the unthinkable happened. A time trial win for Rominger, with Induráin in second place. There was more encouragement for Mig's rivals from the other big race he's dominated in recent years, the Giro d'Italia. This year, he could only place third behind the Russian Yevgeny Berzin. So far this Tour, Mig's been an unfamiliar sight in his ordinary team jersey instead of yellow, but he's looked comfortable and happy enough with his lead of nearly 30 seconds over Rominger. But now the pressure's on, and after yesterday's stage, Mig, never a man of many words, had just one for Paul Sherwin.
Miguel, peux poser une question vite, juste vite.
Manana is what Mig said there, if you didn't catch it. Well, it is Manana now, and this is his opportunity to remind everyone on this race who's been the boss of the Tour de France these past 3 years. This stage, by the way, is taking place under the watchful nose of Bergerac's most famous son, Cyrano. And if Mig can get his ahead before the Tour hits the mountains, he'll be a happy man.
And talking of noses, Gary, Massimo Girotto has won the best nose competition, voted on by former riders of the Tour, and he now wins his own weight in wine here in Bergerac. It's one of those days when you expect to be a lot heavier than you really are for the ride in the Tour de France. Miguel Induráin, he's such a beautiful rider when he sits in the saddle. Now let's have a look at 6.5 kilometres. Induráin has been through 9 minutes 7 seconds. That's a tremendous performance, isn't it? 17 seconds better than De Las Cuevas, and the man that beat him in Lille has already conceded 32 seconds, and he didn't even reach the distance that we did in Lille, Paul.
Exactly, that's the difference with riding a time trial after 1 week of the Tour de France, in fact, to be exact, 9 days, because you have the repetitive fatigue that comes in, the hard, long stages we've had so far, and that is an incredible turnaround of the books 32 seconds ahead of Chris Boardman in 6.5 kilometres. That really is quite impressive.
Back to Rominger out on the open highway.
I think he's had a few problems with his mental build-up over the last couple of weeks, because if he thinks back to last year when he actually defeated Miguel Induráin in the final time trial there, he started to get a little bit of confidence, thinking that his time trialing had improved. But as we've approached the time trial, he's starting to say, well, if I could lose 30 seconds or if I could lose just a minute, then I would be quite satisfied. And this was the man that last year could rival Miguel Induráin. You can see he's gone through the 15-kilometre check there in first place, but Miguel Induráin still has to arrive there, and Induráin is flying along at the moment.
Now we're going to Chris Boardman, who's approaching the check at just on 30 kilometres covered in the town of Vept. And this should hopefully, no, in fact he's gone behind Thierry Marie, so as the race gets longer, Chris Boardman is beginning to suffer here. Only the third best time now. He should have been first here at this point in the race, because he's ahead of the stars who are bettering his time. But however, Boardman beginning to slow there. It is Armand de las Cuevas who's also beginning to slow, because he was second best at the 6.5 kilometres check behind Induráin. He's now gone behind Tony Rominger, who's gone through at 15 kilometres. They both have, in fact, and we're now waiting for the arrival at that point of Miguel Induráin. He's in what is one of the most beautiful sections of the course, but mind you, the riders don't notice scenery so much as the spectators do. But I'm sure he's glad of the shade there afforded by the trees.
This is Rominger again. You see how the riders take all the risks necessary when they come into a corner. He's moving over to the right-hand side of the road and cutting that corner as much as possible, very similar to the way that a rider would in a Formula One race. And this is Claudio Chiappucci coming up to the line.
Well, he once said he would learn to time trial and win the Tour de France. He has certainly improved his time trial riding, but this isn't going to win in the Tour de France, I don't think. It's still a very good ride for Claudio Chiappucci, and he has a very high standing in the King of the Mountains at the moment, something he can always look forward to, and he'll have his moment, believe me, when we're in the Pyrenees or the Alps. But right now for him, it's going to be 9th place with a lot of better men still to come in. And we're seeing Induráin, and in fact his time has just come through to us, and we're now going to tell it to you. 20 minutes 23 seconds. He's gone through almost a minute quicker, and we're only a quarter of a way through the race today. Now he's on schedule to beat Rominger by 4 minutes. That is unbelievable. Rominger said before the start he would be content to concede only a minute to Induráin. Well, he's done that already in 15 kilometres.
But Miguel Induráin has looked very strong since the start of this Tour de France, and it's going to be very strange for Lance Armstrong, the current world champion, and he's about to get caught by Induráin. You can see Induráin will just fly by him, and then what Armstrong has to do is try and stay within 40 or 50 metres. He's not allowed to get into Indurain's slipstream, and then it might help Armstrong to pace himself and try and stay in contact, which would increase his chances of doing a good ride. But look how fast Induráin has gone by.
And Rominger's in trouble. There's a puncture and a quick bike change for Tony Rominger. Well, when the chips are down, it seems they are always down, because Indurain's riding smoothly at the moment and gaining time with every pedal rev, Paul, and Rominger has problems like that.
Well, it's almost an action replay of the time trial last year, except that he started in pouring weather conditions, and this time he's had another little problem there.
Now he's got to get back into his rhythm as quickly as he can, because de las Cuevas is not far behind him on time on the open road. Just 7 seconds separating at the 15-kilometre checkpoint, and we're approaching now the 30-kilometre checkpoint. And so the arrival of Alex Zula coming in, one of the riders who said he was feeling good and was looking forward to the time trial, but his time is not good. 18th place at the minute. He'll be outside the top 20. And this is Rominger now approaching the 29.8 kilometres checkpoint. He's just changed his bicycle. That will obviously reflect in his time, and the best time there is Ugrimov. But despite that bike change, which was very rapid indeed, it looks as though Rominger will go through his best time so far. There it is, 37 minutes and 30 seconds for Tony. Here's de las Cuevas now out on the open highway. He's riding behind Rominger. Now here's the situation at 29.8 kilometres. Rominger just gone through, 56 seconds quicker than Ugrimov, a minute better than Marie, and 64 seconds better than Chris Boardman. now the arrival of De Las Cuevas as he approaches the 29.8 check. And as you can see, the second man on the board is Peter Ugrimov. The clock has already passed Tony Rominger's best time thus far. De Las Cuevas should slot in into second place. But he might well have held Rominger a little bit because of that bike change. He goes through now 38 minutes and 5 seconds, 35 seconds slower than Rominger. And here now is Miguel Induráin in the halfway town of Vert. And the time check coming up, well, it's going to be sensational, whatever it is. Lance Armstrong still holding him in his sights. He caught him a long while back, but Armstrong doing what he can to keep Induráin in his sights. That'll be a big effort by Lance. But let's look at the time. Now just look at the clock here. Induráin aiming for the best time set by Rominger of 37 minutes 30, and it's going to be, at least a minute faster, 1 minute 24 seconds indeed, better than Rominger for Miguel Induráin. But his gains have slowed down.
Well, he obviously took a very rapid start, and I think helped by the fact that Armstrong started in front of him. He saw Armstrong was there, but putting the cards on the table straight away at the first 6.5 kilometer time check will be relayed to all the other teams and all the other riders in the race, and that for Tony Rominger would be a real blow to his morale.
Well, here is Tony Rominger going in for the kill here as he catches the rider that started in front of him. Looks like it might be the Castorama rider Thomas Davey. Now the first chance we've had to see Johan Museo out on the open road, and he is now approaching the checkpoint 2 at approximately the halfway mark, and he goes through in just 20th place, 3 minutes 26 seconds behind Miguel Induráin. The arrival of Thierry Marie, and he's putting some excellent time checks out on the course. Previously a winner of 3 prologue time trials in the Tours de France since 1986. Keeps his head down, drives to the line, 1 hour, 20 minutes, 43 seconds for Marie. Well, as we look here at Tony Rominger out on the course, and slowly but surely the race coming to a close for him. Thierry Marie is the leader in the finishing line with a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes and 43 seconds. At the check of 54 kilometres, Chris Boardman has come up there now at second best time, but 23 seconds slower than Thierry Marie. And Boardman due in at the finish very, very shortly. And here now is the arrival of Chris Boardman. He's not going to win the time trial in the same sensational fashion that he won the prologue, but he has still put in a tremendous performance in very, very hot conditions indeed. Comes right up to the line and drives himself to the line. It'll be second best so far, 1:21 and 25 on the line for Chris Boardman. He shakes the head, he says it's not good enough, but he sets the standard for himself. Out on the course, Tony Rominger has gone through 54 kilometres now, quicker than Marie, who is in, quicker than Boardman, who is in, and quicker than the other two, who are also in at the finishing line. Well, the rider in the sights now of Induráin here is De Las Cuevas. De Las Cuevas, who started, in fact, 4 minutes in front of Induráin, and in fact through smoothly on the inside of De Las Cuevas goes Miguel Induráin, and that is a surprise. 4 minutes, surely we never expected to see De Las Cuevas concede that. He's gritted his teeth. He's trying to hang on now to Induráin. Into the streets of Bergerac now for the approach to the finishing line. And Induráin and Rominger are split by 1 minute 50 seconds at 54 kilometres. Induráin is certainly not going to catch Rominger, that's for sure. They started 6 minutes apart on the road. He's reclaimed 2 of them.
That has to be one of the toughest time trials you've ever ridden in your life.
It's the most unpleasant time trial I've ever ridden in my life, because I started it pretty well smashed. 2 problems. One, just pure natural endurance, which is going to take some time to develop, and the other being the heat. I really suffered with the heat. I started quick. If I'd gone any faster, I was definitely going to pass out. I experienced the same thing in Bordeaux when I went for the hour record, but today I was just completely spent. I couldn't even try. I couldn't try hard. There was nothing I could do. So it's a bit disappointing, but I suppose it's not so bad for a first year. I'd like to thank the British people. There's so many out there giving me a shout. I'm sorry to let them down today.
But Chris, you think it's the fact that the first 9 days of this Tour de France have been a lot harder than you really expected?
No, to be honest, I expect them to be a lot harder. But the last 4 days I've really been suffering. And as I say, I think mainly it's just natural endurance, and I got a bit over enthusiastic at the start with going to our own country and having the yellow jersey. So I've learned a lot of lessons. Unfortunately, learned a few the hard way, and hopefully I'll be able to do a better job of it next year for the British people who are supporting me this year.
The one final question, Chris, everybody's asking this. How much further are you going to go in the Tour de France now, because the mountains are looming around the corner?
Yeah, I've got to have to discuss that with the boss tonight. But I don't want to just go and get a complete hide-in with the World Championships coming up. As I said, I've got to be realistic and think about those. I don't want to kill myself just to say I finished the Tour this year. I'd rather stop, go for the Worlds, come back and have a real challenge to win the Tour next year.
And Rominger approaching the finish now. He's now coming home with the best time so far, but it may not survive the day because we've seen the time checks out on the course. But even so, it's going to be a great time by Rominger, three-time a winner of the Tour of Spain and the pre-favourite for the Tour de France along with Miguel Induráin. Today was the moment of truth, and Tony Rominger has come home with the best time so far, 1 hour 17 minutes and 58 seconds. Now the arrival of Miguel Induráin with a flotilla of people following him, a familiar scene indeed, and what is going to be a familiar result. This brilliant master of the race against the watch. So all of his riding at the head of the bunch these last 8 days, it wasn't to psych out the riders, he really was feeling good. Look at the clock. The time in the house is Rominger. This is going to knock him off the leaderboard by a big way. Not perhaps as much as we feared after 6 kilometres today. Rominger got better, but Induráin held his own all the way on a viciously hot day. He just takes one more opportunity to settle in and choose his gears. He comes up to the line. 1 hour 15:58, 2 minutes precisely. Better than Tony Rominger, and not as bad as Rominger will have thought.
Well, I think he's going to be very happy, because Rominger must have been quite surprised at the first few time checks, the amount of time he lost in 6 kilometres and then in 15 kilometres. So at the end of the day, 2 minutes is not all that bad.
So here's the result. It looks rather familiar, doesn't it? Induráin finishing ahead of Tony Rominger, Armand de las Cuevas, Thierry Marie and Chris Boardman finishing in 5th place. The other British rider in the race, Sean Yates, finished in 15th position. Miguel Induráin in the yellow jersey at last in this year's Tour de France. The question is now, can he keep it all of the way to Paris? In the overall situation, he leads Tony Rominger by 2 minutes and 28 seconds. Armand de las Cuevas is third, 4 minutes 40 back. Gianluca Bortolami drops from second, but hangs on with a great time trial today to remain at 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Chris Boardman is 7th, and Sean Yates is 8th in the overall classification. So the big man, Miguel Induráin, back in the driving seat now after his favourite event. But in the end, he won by only 2 minutes, and Tony Rominger should take heart, because after 6 kilometres today, it looked like he'd lead by 5. This year, the mountains are very high and come often in the Tour de France. Rominger must attack him every day when we get there. And when have we ever had 2 British riders in the top 8 in the Tour after this stage of the event? Well done, Sean Yates. Well done, Chris Boardman, who finished 5th today. Our programme tomorrow will come to you at 8 o'clock, and I hope overnight that Chris Boardman makes the decision to continue. Until then, goodbye.